My name is Novak, and I'm GadellNet's training and development leader. So thank you for taking time out of your day to be here. Joining us today are GadellNet's founder and CTO, Joe Gadell, and our CEO, Nick Smrelli. I'm excited about today's webinar because it's always fun when we can get Nick and Joe together to discuss what they are truly passionate about, technology, our clients, our employees, and also our core values. So thank you to those that submitted questions prior to the webinar. Nick and Joe will answer your questions as well as some additional questions that have come up during client visits, QBRs, just conversations with our AMs. Didn't get the opportunity to submit a question prior to the webinar, but have one for either Joe or Nick. There will be time at the end for questions. This webinar will be recorded, and we will send out the recording after the call. And included with that recording will be a brief survey. We would be very appreciative if you would take a moment and fill it out. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. My first question for either Joe or Nick, so whichever one wants to take this, is how do you guys meet?
I will handle that one. This is Nick Smrelli. So Joe and I met. The story of kind of how it all happened. It took place over almost a decade. So Joe and I met in the year 2000. We both went to school at St. Louis University. So the three owners of GadellNet are actually three St. Louis University graduates. Tom Stem, who is a owner of the company, still active, kind of sitting on kind of in a more board sense, is still part of the organization. Tom and I were friends, and then Tom introduced me to Joe Gadell in college. So we knew each other even before GadellNet even started. And so Joe Gadell was actually the individual who started the company in 2003. And it took 7 more years from him starting the company to when Joe finally recruited me to join the organization in 2010. So I, technically speaking, was the 4th employee of the company. But him and I met in college, and again, I think it's one of those interesting things. Joe, Tom, and I, 3 very different personalities, started off with a foundation of friendship, but kind of bring 3 different skill sets to the leadership of GadellNet. So it's been kind of a fun ride for the 3 of us, getting to know each other both as friends, but also kind of managing a growing business. Did I miss anything there, Joe?
I would just add that to your point that 3 of us always had 3 different skill sets. So we all, I think, with our early client meetings and as we got things going, we all kind of brought a different perspective to the table. So I think that helped set us apart as an organization when we were meeting with our clients. We were able to bring a really nice holistic solutions to the table. We all approached it from a different angle.
Great. All right. So, oh, did you have anything else, Nick?
No, I was to Joe's point. Like we've got 3 complementary things, so it's also nice. I feel like there's not too many businesses, especially business partners who have been together for as long as we have, that actually legitimately still like each other. So it's I'd say through all of this, we've made it. So we're almost on our 9-year anniversary together, and I don't think, Joe, you hate me. I think we've made it.
That's awesome. All right, so Nick, we will begin with you. Our first 3 questions actually were submitted by Andrew from TSI. So the first question is around culture, and he asked, how do you build a culture of trust and teamwork while allowing individuals' performance to show through?
Oh, it's a good question. So one of the things that I think we do, and we really kind of try to really kind of hone in, is this idea of kind of the GadellNet core values. So we've got 3 core values that we're really proud of. Core value number 1 is this idea of making an impact, and kind of making an impact to the community, to each other. The second one is accountability, and the third one is this idea around growth. So those 3 core values are kind of foundational to the company. But one of the things that we really try to allow for is kind of allowing kind of personal values to be at play as well. So we talk a lot about, as an organization, around the whole person and kind of living your true kind of core values as an individual. So while we ensure in the interview process and the hiring process that we're bringing people in that really kind of understand our core values. How one individual sees make an impact and how another individual sees make an impact is two different things. And so we really kind of try to promote a team environment based on, a shared vision and a shared values, but also allowing the flexibility of there's different ways to get to the same destination, and kind of really allowing for individuals to kind of get there in their own way, with kind of that guiding star of it's part of our responsibility as an executive team to kind of provide that guiding star of saying, hey, this is where we're heading as an organization. So let's try to get there, but how you get there is up to you. So it really kind of allows us to be nimble and flexible with bringing on people that understand our values, but bring their own kind of personal skill sets and experiences. So we really kind of try to kind of hone in on individuals that understand that and kind of encourage that. So we do a lot of work around personality testing to get to know the core person. And then more than that is to say, okay, I know myself a little bit better. How do I know that my peers? So if you walk around our office, you can see we have little dots that show people's personalities. And if you walk around the Indianapolis office, for example, we've got 25 people with 25 different dot portfolios. So even though we try to hire a similar person with kind of similar alignment to our values, with 25 different personalities doing that, we recognize that has to be an acknowledgement of the differences of the team. So I think articulating that and reinforcing that and allowing for that, I think has really kind of helped build that culture of kind of individual performance, but also really kind of bringing in teamwork and collaboration.
His last two questions are around performance. And so he wants to know, what does your performance process look like, or what does our performance review process look like here at GadellNet? And then what metrics do you track, and how is all of that rewarded?
So that's a big question, or two big questions. So I'll start with the performance review one because that's the easiest one. So our performance review process, and some clients think we're crazy for it. We do a performance review every quarter. And in that performance review, it's a quarterly meeting with a manager. We use a tool currently called PerformYard that kind of helps manage that process for us. But it's only 3 questions. And it really goes back to our 3 core values. So question number 1 is, where have you made an impact this quarter? And so kind of going back and reflecting on the past 90 days and talking a little bit about KPIs and scorecard and where have you lived our values, and really, again, where have you made an impact? Question number 2 is kind of, where did you fall short? And that really aligns back to our accountability value, is where did you fall short? And it's acknowledging, here's where I missed the mark, and here's what I'm going to do to improve that. So kind of acknowledging a miss is a kind of part of that accountability. We have a phrase internally called "make new mistakes," and that kind of theme is got to be accountable for those actions, but by acknowledging that, especially in a kind of a formal performance review process, that allows a good dialogue with the manager to improve. And the third question is, what are you going to do to improve next quarter? And so that's everything from value-based things to kind of chasing more kind of KPI type scorecard items. So 3 questions, and really kind of allows for a very active dialogue. I'd say about 2 years ago, we really got rid of the numerical score internally. We thought that was a little bit, I would say, easy from the management perspective to say, you're a 2.4 employee versus a 2.6 employee. And it became a little bit more about the numbers, less so on the conversation and kind of a focus around development. And I think kind of switching that to a more open-ended free text type performance review, it forces the managers to think a bit more deep, and then it forces the employees to really kind of give a self-review that's, I would say, a little bit more self-aware than just giving yourself an arbitrary score. And I think that's kind of a big component of that performance review process. And we do every year a 360 review that also incorporates kind of how you impact your peers. We're a big believer in that, in the sense that the management team can only see so much, and so we want to make sure, again, even kind of answering the first question is, how do we promote individual performances in the context of a grander kind of scope of teamwork, is we kind of encourage that through performance reviews and the 360 process. We also do, as part of that, we do a weekly one-on-one that again, it's the one-on-one is a really good check-in point. It talks a lot about kind of how the employee is feeling, but that is also kind of a micro performance review every week. So kind of it allows for good dialogue between the managers, so that at that quarterly review, if anyone's surprised by anything, I would say that would be a failure on both the employee but also the manager. So that's the long answer to what is our performance review process. For such a simple process, very long answer. The second part of that question really comes back to the metrics and what do we score. So we are very big on making sure that every individual in the organization has anywhere between 2 and 4 key metrics. We track as an organization, I would arguably say, hundreds of metrics. So there's a lot of metrics that we score to try to kind of give trends. That helps us hire at on time. We help make sure that we're bringing the right resources to our clients. But beyond that, I mean, I think it really comes back to what 2 or 3 key metrics kind of are indicative of performance. And I think regardless of those metrics are, and I'll touch on a little bit on the engineers because that affects probably our clients the most. But regardless of those is I want to have people that leave work at 5 o'clock and say, I had a good day or I had a bad day. And the way that they know that is because it ties back to some of those metrics. And kind of acknowledging each of those things, I think kind of helps improve the way that we again, both scorecard, performance review, but then also just kind of creating an awareness. Because I think for the most part, if there's ambiguity, then performance struggles, and then there's just not this, sense of it's 8 a.m. and I'm ready to go to work and I know exactly what I need to do to leave at 5 o'clock and feel good about myself. So kind of that goal is important. And so to touch a little bit on engineering scorecard, the number one indicator of success within the organization is our customer service score. So again, for those of those folks that are listening that are our clients, they understand that part of that is a survey that gets sent every single time that they close a ticket. For those not clients, essentially we essentially send a smiley face that's gold star, a green star, a yellow star, and a red star. Click on it as part of the email. We get about a 30% or so response rate. That is our number one indicator. Because ultimately speaking, that just shows that they're smart enough to solve the problem. They were kind enough to be kind of empathetic to the situation, and they were responsive to meet those needs. So we take those really, really personally. So that's our number one kind of scorecard that we use. And then for us, it kind of comes back to the other few key ones is an engineer's ability to complete its service ticket in a shorter period of time and kind of have that trend down. Obviously, it's in our best interest to complete requests quickly, but it's also in the client's. Most of our clients work in a billable environment, or it's easy to quantify the value of their time. So if we do good on the training and development and hire the right people and they're able to get service requests done 15 minutes less than they were, let's say, a year before then both GadellNet wins as well as the client wins. So we really kind of do a good job of tracking that. And then the last one is impact score. It's just number of people that they're helping in the course of a week. And so again, it's less so of a big thing that we try to push is less so than your responsibility is to close 45 tickets. We kind of change that up a bit and say your responsibility is to help 45 people. So it's the same metric, but it's just reviewing it at a different light and kind of helping provide some context there. I believe that is going to answer Andrew's question.
All right, thank you. Did you cover how they were rewarded?
Oh, good. I did not. In terms of rewards, so it's kind of a few different ways. We kind of believe in kind of looking at all things. So compensation, I think, is obviously the most logical and easy one. In our organization, we do compensation increases kind of scattered throughout the year to make sure they're kind of paying market rate. But that's, I would say, one element of many. For us, there's also accessibility to kind of key training and development. So those high performers get access to, I would say, more rigorous and or more expensive and or more time-consuming training and development opportunities. Those individuals also get access to promotional opportunities. So again, allowing them to be part of that. And I'd say the last one is they have their kind of access to, hey, you know what, I want to learn how to do a switch installation. And so they partner, a service desk engineer partners with a branch engineer and they get a chance to do something else. So, for us, it's kind of creating opportunities for folks that also kind of create rewards. We also do an internal recognition system, and this is a no-cost system. It's through the system called Tiny Pulse, but it's Cheers for Peers. And both managers, but I think even more importantly, and per the name, Cheers for Peers kind of allows folks to kind of give recognition across teams and within their teams to say, like, hey, Carrie, good job on this webinar today, and kudos for your participation or whatever, and really kind of give in a very public setting a reward and recognition. And I think people really get motivated by those kind of intercompany rewards. So we don't spend a ton of money on some of those programs, but it really kind of allows people to kind of recognize those that are contributing more. And so we really kind of try to make sure we kind of put both financial and then kind of non-financial rewards to those that are achieving their goals.
Okay, great. So for underperforming employees, what are your strategies for those particular employees in a small to medium business environment?
So for us, we use a process called BIP, which is a performance improvement process. In the spirit of grow or die, we believe that individuals have the opportunity to improve. And for us, I think a big part of our company culture is that we chose to hire you. You are kind of part of the family, and it's our obligation to, if at all humanly possible, coach you up to the standard that we promise to our clients. So a part of that is a very formal performance improvement process that is very metrics oriented, both value-based and KPI-based. So it's not only just job performance, but it's also making sure there's alignment to our values. So part of that performance improvement process is a lot of eyes on that individual, but what we do and what we hope for is we give them a lot of resources. So that individual who is on a performance improvement plan has the opportunity to get access to training, has access to coaching. There are a lot of eyes on that person to try to make it successful. Oftentimes, again, given what we do kind of have to kind of limit the scope of their job during that time. But what the hope is, and we've had some of our top performers today performance improvement plan a few years ago, it kind of gives a chance to say, we care about you, we're invested in improving, and we give them the resources to try to be successful. That said, a lot of times it is, and then there's other times that it's not, and oftentimes in the best interest of both the business and then the clients that we serve is there's individuals that don't meet the mark. We make a lot of promises to the people that put a lot of trust to us, and part of that Power Your Mission campaign that we have this in the sense of people are relying on us. If we're not helping power an infrastructure, then their business slows down. So oftentimes we have to make the hard decision, but I think we do everything that we can to make sure that we invest the right resources and to try to kind of salvage a relationship.
Right. Thank you. Describe your internal training program and how you invest in your employees' growth.
Well, we have an individual named Carrie who is happens to be on this call, who is our training and development. And now I would say arguably a company of 80 people having a training and development leader seems a bit overstaffed. And I would argue that it's probably one of our most compelling facets that we've introduced in 2019. For us, I think us and all of our clients operate at such a fast pace that training becomes an afterthought. And development of employees becomes an afterthought because we have client demands, we have client requests. We hired the most client-focused people in the world. And so if it's I need to go learn something or I need to take care of a client, we always opt to take the client. So good in the short term, bad in the long term. So what we've tried to do within the construct of the training and development program is create what we called IDPs, so individual development programs. And those IDPs are again, anywhere between kind of 12 to 24 month horizon of saying, here is what you are going to do as an employee. Here is what GadellNet is going to do. Where do you want to go? What are your professional goals? What are your personal goals? I think you even ask on there, what is your bucket list item? In order to kind of help round out that individual and to understand kind of how GadellNet will help them kind of grow in development. Again, one of our values being around growth. So that IDP is a very clear plan that the manager can follow. Carrie is also held accountable for making sure that those are done. And what we do is we create the resources, both financial and time, in order for them to hit those IDP goals. And for us, it's, again, in our industry, and it's still just as bad, there is a 40% turnover in employees. Since October, we have had turnover of 2 employees so far. So, in a company of 80. So really, really proud of, again, I think the training development program is a big facet of that number because of the fact we were investing so much in people. So I think people see a longer time horizon. So I couldn't recommend more the idea of developing an IDP for folks because it crystallizes what the future plans are, especially for a fast-growing company. It's nice to know, okay, this individual is going to be on this team later. This individual wants to be on this team later. So we know how we're going to staff for the future, but it also paints a nice time horizon. So those days that you're having, again, and we all have those, myself included, that you don't really want to go to work, the IDP serves as that kind of guiding lights of, all right, today's a rough day, but it's going to be great later. So kind of helps paint a picture of something far away. So we really kind of spend a lot of time and money really investing in that part of the training and development program.
All right, you talked about growth, and feedback is a huge part of growth. So how do you promote soliciting feedback?
Question. So we use a tool. There's a multitude of ways that we do that. So I mentioned the one-on-ones. That's probably our primary way of really kind of getting a lot of deep feedback. Another way is we use a tool called Tiny Pulse. It's a technology tool. We've been using it for about 5 years. And what it does is every 2 weeks asks a question. Everything from how is the CEO performing? Do you believe in the values? Do you, what are the things that you're most accomplished? How engaged or happy are you at work? Every 2 weeks, it's a different question. And to be honest, every 2 weeks I cringe because I'm nervous about getting the feedback, but I'm also elated because don't get the feedback, then you can't improve on it. So that's a great way. I mean, again, when we were 5 people, I could walk into the room that all 5 people were in and say, how are things going? And I would get direct feedback. When you're 80 and 2 different locations, you just can't do that anymore. And so it's, again, being a tech company, it's kind of how do you leverage technology in a creative way in order to kind of gather and share feedback. So a big part of that program is making sure that A, people participate, and B, that the executive team takes action on those items. So we're really big on making sure that every specifically negative responses get a nice reply, and in some capacity every response kind of makes its way to the executive team meeting to make sure that we're doing everything we can to really truly address those needs. So that's a really, really big part of kind of our company culture is just that anonymous solicitation of feedback. So it allows us to really kind of look at the business as a whole and identify what things we want to improve on. Quite frank, a lot of the best ideas that we've implemented have come from there. So it makes me look good in my job because I just kind of shamelessly steal ideas that our employees provide and just make them a reality. So I really have appreciated that as a good tool. And then lastly, again, and we reiterate this at all times, is accessibility. Joe and myself, I think, are probably the 2 most successful executives that you could possibly find. We make it a really big point that we are always there to listen, no matter what layer of the organization you're in. And I think that's a really big, I think that sets the right tone. Whether or not individuals use that or not, is just knowing that it's an option, I think gives people a sense of peace that, worst case scenario, the 2 individuals the individual that started the company and the other, another owner of the company is available at any time to speak with. So we try to make sure that just sets the tone for the culture of we're always listening. And I think that's a big part of, again, what has made us successful.
And I think you touched on this a little bit, but in talking about the 2 locations, how do you ensure that, collaboration happens between those 2 locations?
So I think it starts primarily from kind of creating a common vocabulary is, again, people talk the same way in Indianapolis as they talk at our St. Louis office. Again, we talk the way you talk about values, the way we talk about our mission, the way we talk about our clients, the way we laugh about things. I feel like it's very similar. Kind of creating this common vocabulary makes sure that you feel the same way in both of the offices. And it's a silly thing to start off with, but I think it's very important. It's that if you do not have a common language, it's really hard to kind of create collaboration across offices. And I would say the second one I think that really is impactful for us is, again, going back to a little bit of technology, but we use Microsoft Teams as a foundation for our collaboration and communication across the organization. So Microsoft Teams is a tool that's included with Office 365, and what it allows you to do is kind of create sub-teams within the organization as well as a full team and kind of parse out files, collaboration tools, conversations into a single kind of pane of glass. So at any point, I can have any idea of what's going on. So in that, we have everything from our departments to shared GadellNet news. We also kind of have baked into that is all of our customer feedback hits that. So every feedback that we get is kind of hits a public channel. The peers for peers, which I mentioned in terms of kind of that peer collaboration, also hits our Microsoft Teams. So it's a single pane of glass that really kind of allows us to have good communication across the organization. And that's really, really big for us, is making sure that our tools kind of align with the way that we think philosophically as an organization. And I think kind of lastly is we still invest highly in making sure teams come together. So we are highly encouraging of St. Louis teams coming to Indy teams going to St. Louis. I don't know when this will change, but it's in the near future, it's not going to. Even our Christmas party, we actually, fortunately for the Indianapolis group, forced them to go to St. Louis so that we're all in the same space because we are one team. We are not two separate organizations. And so kind of promoting that in both tools, the vocabulary, and then just generally in our actions and kind of creating this kind of shared vision for both teams, I think really kind of helps promote collaboration because we want to make sure we're always kind of building those relationships across both of those offices. And then within the office itself is spending a ton of time just making sure, again, those bump into each other moments of not only just those happy hours or those kind of things afterwards, but just kind of creating opportunities for people to stand up in their desks and interact with each other because really that's impactful for, again, kind of building the trust across the team. So when you're solving a hard issue, you know that yesterday you also spent some time together at a lunch or kind of shared or we brought in a barista last week to our St. Louis office to to kind of make coffees. Very low cost way, force people out their desks into a single area and talking about something that everybody loves, which is highly caffeinated drinks.
All right, I'm going to switch gears a little bit to the topic of leadership. Daniel from Ingraphics submitted this question. He said he's always looking for, I guess it's a statement, but he said he's always looking for additional perspective on leadership styles and methods.
Okay, not so much of a question there, but I would say, again, for me, I think taking time to one of the things that my dad was a big advocate of this is know what you don't know and then surround yourself by far smarter people than you. And so I guess my counsel to him is, certainly webinars like this are helpful, kind of hearing how GadellNet does it. But at GadellNet, all we have done is essentially met with other leaders and joined other organizations. So again, the leaders of GadellNet we're part of peer communities within the managed services space, so other owners of managed services companies across the country. We have meetings with them. We're part of organizations like YPO, which is Young Presidents Organization, that of other key business leaders. We're part of organizations like Vistage. So I guess my commentary to him would be, certainly 30 minutes with Joe and myself will be helpful, but surround yourself by different leaders in different industries with different years of experience, with different ways of seeing things. Read as much as you can, identify kind of good books that kind of speak to you or kind of challenge a part of you that hasn't been developed yet. But for me, again, like I said, a lot of the best ideas that we've had as an organization have either come from our employees or shamelessly stolen from other organizations. So again, don't try to recreate the wheel, but really kind of build up a network of strong leaders. And I think that's, again, my counsel for kind of how to build that skill set up.
All right, my last question for you before we move on to is around our values. I know you're very, very passionate about our core values. So as you hire for our values, how do you do that without sacrificing talent?
It's a great point. I think it's for us, I think we've made a decision, and I think everyone's okay with it, is I would rather hire for values than for general talent. We've made that mistake in the past. I would say 4 or 5 years ago, our values were just starting to really come about. But if there was a talented engineer that we were worried didn't have our values, we would find ourselves kind of saying, well, you know what, we need the help. We're growing. Let's go hire an individual. And I'd say the last 3 or 4 years, we've done a really good job of saying we'd rather pause for a few weeks, even slow down growth than rush a hiring decision. So we really make sure that, again, it's values first. So how do we do that is even our job ads talk about our values in a way that is inspiring, but also scary. So if you are not aligned with our values, you would not apply for the job with us. And so we try to kind of scare people away at the preliminary process. And then the first conversation they have is actually not with a technical engineer, but rather with our HR director. And she screens out so we've got 3 or 4 questions that are behavioral based per value that asks questions around those. So for us, it's really kind of making sure we're asking all those questions ahead of time so that the second interview, so they've now taken a personality test, which is kind of a little bit more value aligned. They've had the job description, they've had the behavioral based interview. So they're on step 4 of the interview process when they first get a question of, can you fix a computer? And so for us, I think that is a key part of kind of how do we scale the culture well, but how do we scale the right people without sacrificing what I think our clients have expected out of our team. And I think that's, again, it's a big responsibility for us. We've also incentivized our team to do references across friends, because if one thing that we found is a smart, talented, empathetic, energetic individual probably has smart, talented, empathetic, energetic friends. And so what we have tried to kind of really encourage, and some of our best hires have come from references of people that work for GadellNet. So again, not sacrificing talent. And as part of that is, because we do that, and so for our clients that are going to be listening to this call, is we never want to put our clients in a bad position. So what we really have to make sure we do is we understand what that growth looks like, and understanding kind of how do we pair hiring with revenue, so that we never put ourselves in a position to have to rush a hire in order just to kind of fulfill a need. So, I'd say it's a multi-step process, but that's kind of how we look at it. So it comes, again, mostly to planning, recruiting in terms of kind of finding what that talent looks like and in alignment to our values.
All right, fantastic. So I'm going to move on to Joe. Thank you so much, Nick. Hang tight because we may have you answer more questions at the end. Joe, I'm going to move to you, and we're going to talk through. I'm going to ask you some questions more around technology. So I'll just go ahead and get started here. Which is best? So would you recommend cloud or on-premise, and why?
So I guess I would start off with that cloud technologies are generally the best place to start when you're looking for something new. They're normally easiest to get started with. They allow for really good interaction and integration with other applications generally. They're usually more innovative and evolve more quickly over time. On-premise solutions are a safe bet. They're slow to evolve, very predictable, and they're basically a conservative choice. And so when we're doing strategic planning with our clients, we attempt to lead with cloud technologies and then fall back on on-premise if we really need to. It's also, I guess, worth saying that cloud technologies are usually tied to a recurring spend. So it's like a monthly spend versus a capital expense that you buy at one time and then you're done. Sometimes that's something our clients are looking for. They're looking for a smaller cost to get started, and it's easier for them to swallow that rather than some large expense of buying something upfront.
Okay, thank you. If you had to choose one of our products to recommend to our clients, which would it be and why?
So a lot of our customers know that we have this suite of products we call Guru. So I think I would choose Guru Sentry, which is our security product suite, and Prevent, the actual kind of product within that suite. Prevent is kind of the entry point for security product. And I mean, one of our primary goals is always to protect our clients' organization and their employees. So Sentry Prevent, it's an affordable product that all of our clients should have. It starts with awareness training to help prevent phishing attacks, from catching users off guard, and it also proactively filters network traffic, just in case would get click a link that's dangerous. It's likely that the security tool would back them up and block them, even though they accidentally clicked the link. So we see organizations without these tools get compromised often, and those with it have a much lower rate of compromise. So obviously that saves cost, it saves headaches, reduces how much time we have to spend uh, supporting our clients when they are compromised, and again, it reduces their risk of losing money or um, losing their clients' data as well.
All right, and talking about Sentry, do we as a company, does GadellNet feel confident that we can continue to protect clients as cyber criminals become more and more sophisticated?
Yes. So as we've grown, we've been able to dedicate more time, money, resources to finding the best tools and continually training our own team on new technology to ensure that we are protecting ourselves, our customers' data, and that we are also enabling our customers to be smart with the kind of ever changing landscape. We will keep investing. We continue to work with our clients to be proactive, to use these tools that are again generally low cost, especially lower cost than the threats would be of being compromised in the long run to help keep our customers safe.
Great. All right, going to switch gears a little bit to a couple questions around Microsoft. Why does GadellNet recommend Microsoft over Google for our clients?
Um, well, so we actually have both Microsoft 365 or Office 365 and Google's G Suite within our client base. On the business side of things, 365 brings a lot of value in the tools and the applications that businesses all over the world rely on. So this makes the most sense for a majority of our business clients, not all, to utilize 365, continue to be competitive, um, find new efficiencies, collaborate with other organizations, and kind of latch on to a platform that's quickly evolving and coming out with something new all the time. Um, on the other hand, our schools rely heavily on G Suite from Google, so it's the right bundle of applications for them in a lot of cases at the right price point, and it's still close enough in functionality to Office that our schools are still kind of readying their students for the business world when they're done with school, and they need to, in a lot of cases, use the Microsoft suite. That they're still going to be prepared when they get there.
Okay, great. What new Microsoft products exist that'll help me improve my business? So when you think about things like collaboration, data visualization, communication, as some examples.
Um, well, I guess I would say that Microsoft is quickly innovating in a lot of areas. It's such a change from years past where you had Microsoft Office, and that was about it. Operate your business on from Microsoft and Windows, of course, but they're spending a ton of money, resources, and energy and evolving their applications quickly, coming out with new things all the time now. So we will continue to invest and find better ways to help educate our clients on what's available, what's coming out. Um, have a little bit of time to do some research on your own. I would out Power BI. Take a look at Planner and Teams and Microsoft Forms and Flow. Those are some of these new tools that are coming out that our team is becoming well versed in. We're using them to solve a lot of problems across our client base. And in a lot of cases, these tools are at least a portion of them are built right into Office 365. So you're already actually paying for them in a lot of cases. Um, Another one is Power Apps. So we are investing in Power Apps internally, and so Power Apps are applications that a non-programmer can develop and that work across web browsers and mobile devices, and they can be put together really quick, and they can help you do something more complex than like a form could do, or um, kind of also be used to integrate applications that didn't talk to each other before. So there's some neat stuff that done there.
Great. And when we think about our Office 365 subscriptions, how do we maximize that? I mean, I know we'll be talking this next month in August webinar, but can you touch on that question?
Sure. I think the best thing to do here is just spend time browsing around when you're logged into Office 365. Look at the different tools available, some of those I just mentioned in the previous question, and also communicate your business challenges with and maybe areas of inefficiency in operations with our team. So when our account management team or consulting team are on site with you, let's talk about your business and where your challenges are, and we can very likely a lot of suggestions to the table. Um, we're highly aware of Office 365's capabilities. We've used a ton of it here at GadellNet. Most of the time, like I said, you're already paying for a lot of the stuff that's built in. It's built into the subscription. So there might be time involved in getting something started and figuring out how it fits, but there's a lot there. So yeah, we'll talk more about that next month, and so join up for that.
Wonderful. All right, so at IT strategy. Elizabeth from Twain submitted this question. What is our strategy for how to successfully transform IT infrastructure and adapt to new technology while maintaining a stable IT environment?
Okay. I would say forming a pilot or proof of concept group or groups of members of your team who are maybe more flexible when something might not be quite right, potentially even aligning kind of like release schedules with those pilot groups so that you have like people on very early release software and another group on something that's a little bit more mature, um, aligning it with their personalities and their workflow so that you're not interrupting them and causing trouble. That can go a long way to ensure that kinks are worked out before the whole team is affected or the whole organization is affected, and allow for grassroots support to build before a new application or some major release is pushed out to the whole. I think another thing that we can do is find ways to get used to continuous change and improvement. Like through awareness, planning, like proactive communication, kind of layered in. The world is quickly changing, and these platforms and tools are quickly moving away from slowly evolving applications, and they're constantly evolving now. So there's always some kind of change happening, and that is making it more difficult for those that aren't used to their computer changing and things looking different all the time. But it's kind of the world that we live in now. So we can help kind of our clients work through those situations and find the best way to help their team through it.
Great. And I know, Joe, with your role, it's very important to, stay on top of tech trends and fully understand the future of IT. And so, what will be the biggest tech trends in the next 12 to 18 months for small to mid-sized businesses?
I might start off by saying we're getting rid of old hardware. We're making a big push here to move everyone off of Windows 7 and Server 2008. These systems have been around for a long time and served us well, but we need to move on. And now Microsoft is forcing our hand. We have to eliminate most of these systems by the end of the year. So that's a big trend because it's something that has to be done. We continue to find opportunities to eliminate traditional infrastructure and look at those on-premise systems like servers and storage and phone systems. We're trying to find more things in the cloud that are better, faster. They allow for more integration with other tools and platforms. Um, looking at communication and project planning tools, um, Slack, Microsoft Teams, Planner, OneDrive, SharePoint, all these tools that will make positive impacts on how we all do business. They make things easier. They reduce costs. And then finally, we're finding more technology tools that let you work from anywhere. So if you remove or eliminate kind of traditional stuff, again, servers and storage and systems, we're putting in place tools that will allow you that will kind of follow you wherever you go. They have built-in redundancy. So this eliminates the need to have a physical office that must always be online and have battery backups and redundant internet and a bunch of hardware to support your business.
Thank you. Our last question, I actually have it down for you and Nick. I didn't know
Sure.
if both of you guys would want to provide input, but it is around change management, which I know is a topic. But it's from Elizabeth from Twain, and she asks, "How do you inspire a technology team or individuals who is or are resistant to change?"
All right. I guess I'll take a stab and then maybe Nick can add on here, but I would go back to what I mentioned earlier, I think, and find ways to get smaller groups of users on these new tools and platforms and get them excited. Spread the good word and encourage other users that are hesitant to try something new and check things out. And I think planning ahead and communicating well make a big difference. Make a big difference when we're rolling out new things to our clients. We continue to strive to get better at communicating and letting people know what's coming, so that and offering training so that they can be prepared and not be caught off guard. When you catch people off guard, you just make them more highly aware of change and more to adopt something else coming up in the future. I don't know if you have anything to throw in there.
Yeah, I would say ultimately I totally agree with those points, and I think those are foundational to any again technology change. I mean, I think reinforcing, I think the why of like why are we making this change sets the tone as well. Of okay, we're going to be implementing a new piece of software, we're going to be doing this type of change, or we're going to be going from Mac to PC, or whatever type of kind of major technology transition is kind of reinforcing why we're making that change and reminding people of what that future state looks like. So again, we talked about Microsoft Teams. So we're going to bring in Microsoft Teams within the organization. Okay, well, what's the long-term value that that's going to bring to the organization? So yes, you're going to have to learn something new. So of course, getting training and development so that people, I mean, people fear what they don't know. So getting training in their hands, but then again, just painting that picture of 6 months from now, we're all going to be working collaboratively. We're going to have all of our files in the exact same space. It's going to be, you're going to be able to access it from anywhere you are. All of a sudden now, the moderate headache of learning something new seems kind of paltry compared to really what the output could be.
Well, thank you so much for joining. We appreciate it. And if you have any questions, I mean, you can always contact us through help desk, your AM. There are many different ways, but we appreciate you taking the time today. And again, we will send out the recording, and the recording will be published on our social media sites for those clients that were not able to join today. So everyone have a wonderful day. Joe and Nick, thank you again so much. We appreciate it. And all right, thank you so much. Have a great day.